Hello, this is WD.
FM, the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. We're your hosts, Bri Marketing Manager.
And Chris Mullen, Marketing Assistant at the Walt Disney Family Museum.
Welcome back to our monthly Museum Musings episode, where we keep you updated on upcoming museum happenings. So make sure you're subscribed to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Each podcast episode is also available as a video podcast with closed captions available on every video. Visit our YouTube channel at WDF Museum or read the show notes from today's podcast posted to our blog for more information.
So March is filled with wonderful Disney history dates, so you can celebrate with us on social as we honor the birthdays of some of Disney's legendary artists, including Ward Kimball on March 4th, John Lounsbury on March 9th, Harper Goff on March 16th, Milt Kahl on March 22nd, Iwerks on March 24th, and Mark Davis on March 30th. Whew, that's a lot of birthdays.
A lot of birthdays. March is a very big month for Disney. Some notable anniversaries this month include Mickey's Service Station, celebrating its 86th anniversary, which is the short cartoon that introduced the comedy trio of Mickey Mouse, Goofy, and Donald Duck. And where would we be without the three of them together getting into hijinks? The Absent-Minded Professor, celebrating its 60th anniversary, and the 54th anniversary of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at Disneyland. On March 17th, don't get caught not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day. There are some notable Disney Irish history facts. Bri, what is your favorite?
I personally love the connection Walt had towards his Irish heritage. Walt's great-grandfather, Arundel Elias Disney, immigrated from Ireland to North America with his family in 1834. So although Walt was a true American through and through, he greatly admired Ireland. He proudly wore his Claddagh ring, which him and his wife Lillian bought for each other while visiting Ireland. Now, the Claddagh ring is two hands holding a heart, and it represents love, loyalty, and friendship. In the partner statue in Disney parks around the world, the representation of Walt has him wearing this ring. So the next time you're in a Disney park, make sure to look for this little detail on that partner statue. One of my favorite, it's a very unique object in our collection. We have the bronze cast of Walt's hands that include this ring prominently. Some background on these bronze castings. In the 1960s, world-renowned hand surgeon Dr. Adrian Flatt began making bronze casts of famous people's hands. He was fascinated by hands and wanted to demonstrate that there were not a typical type of hand and that a person's hand shape would not necessarily dictate his or her success in a certain field. Interestingly enough, Dr. Flatt collected castings from all kinds of successful people, including artist Norman Rockwell, President Ronald Reagan, athletes Wilt Chamberlain and Andre the Giant, and actress Katharine Hepburn. Luckily for the Walt Disney Family Museum, Dr. Flatt also created a cast of Walt Disney's hands. It's currently in our collection. We have the actual casting plaster and as well as the bronze. So a copy of these hands are on display with over 100 pairs of other hands at the Adrian E. Flatt, MD, Hand Collection in Dallas, Texas. Chris, do you have any fun Disney Irish history stories you enjoy?
I sure do, but perhaps none quite as handy as your Disney Irish history story. Apologies for that. In November 1946, Walt wrote in his annual birthday letter to his sister Ruth, quote, "We are starting a picture on the leprechauns, or little people as they are called in Ireland. So we plan to spend most of our time there gathering background material and learning all we can about Irish folklore." It would take another 14 years before Walt's leprechaun picture became a reality, and although it was entirely made on the lot at the Disney studio, it feels genuinely Irish. Darby O'Gill and the Little People, starring Albert Sharp, Janet Monroe, the late Sean Connery in one of his first leading roles, and Jimmy O'Day, continue to enchant audiences and enthrall special effects artists with its storytelling and technical wizardry. In the promotional television episode, I Captured the King of the Leprechauns, Walt proudly proclaims, quote, "I'm half Irish," as he tells Pat O'Brien of his long fascination with the Little People and shares with audiences the story of his journey to entice King Brian to star in his film. Quote, I went Irish all the way. I even crossed the ocean in an Irish Airlines plane. Walt and Lily visited Dublin for the film's premiere, where he was welcomed royally. He wrote in his 1959 birthday letter to Ruth, quote, "The Irishers presented me with a pony which they shipped over here. The little fellow, who incidentally was named Darby O'Gill, is being broken and fattened up and will eventually make a marvelous pony for the grandchildren." The music of Darby O'Gill also sounds authentically Irish, featuring reels, fiddles, and a charming song by Oliver Wallace and writer Lawrence Edward Watkin, My Pretty Irish Girl. A few years later, the Sherman Brothers brought Irish music to the forefront in their last musical for Walt, The Happiest Millionaire.
I've never heard the story about the pony, Darby O'Gill. I wonder whatever happened to this pony.
Broken and fattened, according to our notes here. A pony is just the quintessential child's fantasy gift. So I'm glad that Walt Disney was able to fulfill that for his grandkids.
What lucky kids.
On that note, what else do we have going on this month, Bri?
Well, March is also Women's History Month, and this year we do plan to open our special exhibition. Don't worry, it's coming. The Walt Disney Studios in World War II, which includes a feature about the women at the Walt Disney Studios during World War II. This particular topic really holds a dear place in my heart. I really dedicated a lot of research into this topic, so really proud of this. And during World War II, there was widespread male enlistment across the country, and talented women were encouraged to step into bigger roles that weren't just in the ink and paint department at the Walt Disney Studios. And their involvement really spread across to all aspects of the studio. And by March of 1945, 81 women were working in the animation department as in-betweeners or assistant animators. So it kind of dispels this myth that only women worked in the ink and paint department and there was only one or two, Rhett Scott or Mary Blair, that were involved in higher levels during Walt's lifetime. But there were so many remarkable women. They were in every area of animation. Speaking of Retta Scott, she did preliminary story development and animation on films such as Aerology, Victory Through Air Power, and Chicken Little. B. Selk, who began on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as the music room secretary, progressed to assistant director on Chippendale Shorts and was music editor on Victory Through Air Power. Catherine Kerwin, Ruthie Thompson, and Mimi Thornton moved up to the camera department, Thornton becoming the first female camera operator at the studio. And Barbara McLean, Enid Smith, and Thelma Whitmer stepped straight into production, being hired in the background department. So they did not step a foot into the ink and paint department. They were hired directly in that background department. So with the United States asking women to join the workforce, it was intended to be temporary. The celluloid ceiling at the Walt Disney Studios had officially been cracked, and women were integrated into all aspects of studio work. And here's one of my favorite quotes. It was from Walt Disney from a speech he gave to studio employees on February 10th, 1941, quote, "If a woman can do the work as well, she's worth as much as a man. The girl artists have the right to expect the same chances for advancement as men. I honestly believe they may eventually contribute something to the business that men never would or could," end quote. Bravo, Walt.
Wow, inspiring. Something that you could hear 70, 80 years later. And it'd be perfectly in line with the way that businesses are continuing to operate today in the 21st century. Yeah, you think of World War II, women joining the workforce, you think of Rosie the Riveter. Well, the Walt Disney Studios had their fair share of Rosies, not just riveting, but working in all kinds of creative work, helping to bring these films to life.
No, I would say that artwork and the work that they done was riveting.
Ooh, point one.
We're feeling punny today.
There we go. Well, speaking of prominent women in Disney history, we, as the Walt Disney Family Museum, would be remiss not to mention our co-founder and Walt's daughter, Diane Disney Miller. Diane was dedicated to sharing the true story of her father, and she championed animation education and arts access as a vital component of the museum's commitment to community engagement. Diane's creative force and persistence in following her dreams made a significant impact as she worked tirelessly to conceive of and complete both the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles and our very own Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco.
Well, hats off to Diane, and we would not be here today if it wasn't for her.
Hats off, and maybe bronze it too. Put some flowers in it.
That's a story for another day.
That's niche. Our listeners will learn more about that later.
Well, let's jump into some upcoming museum events. On Wednesday, March 17th, join us for a workshop celebrating Mary Blair, a remarkable woman who changed the world, with author, illustrator Anne Shen. In honor of Women's History Month, join Anne Shen, author and illustrator of Chronicle books Bad Girls Throughout History, 100 Remarkable Women Who Changed the World, for a workshop celebrating the legacy of one of Walt Disney's most influential concept artists, Mary Blair. So you'll hear about Mary Blair's influence on Shen's career path and learn to draw and paint your own portrait of Mary Blair.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Bonus points if you can make Mary Blair look like a doll from It's a Small World, one of the most famous things that Mary Blair had a hand in designing. So that'll be a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. After that, on Saturday, March 20th, we have a virtual talk called Building an Empire, Creating Her Universe, with actress, author, and entrepreneur Ashley Eckstein, moderated by voice actor Brett Iwan. This program is $5 for members and $10 for non-members. As a former Disney Channel sitcom actress, a current voice talent for Star Wars and Sophia the First projects, and now as the designer behind a sci-fi, fantasy-inspired fashion company for women, Her Universe, Ashley Eckstein has made a name for herself across the Disney landscape in a unique way. Moderated by the voice of Mickey Mouse, Brett Iwan, join us as Eckstein discusses the secrets to her success, what motivated her to create Her Universe, and how she transitioned from acting to creating her own successful fashion line. Following the virtual talk, join us for a virtual story time of Star Wars: I Am a Padawan with actress and author Ashley Eckstein. In this free special presentation, learn about Eckstein's path to bringing the story of Star Wars' Ahsoka Tano to readers around the globe.
I'm very excited with that, especially for the program. Pairing Ashley and Brett Iwan together is just a match made in heaven. We had them on a previous Happily Ever After hour, and you can tell that they're great friends just on and off the screen.
You really can't keep them apart, and we are all the better for it. They're delightful. One of my favorite programs of the last year was the program with both of them together. They're just so much fun.
Oh yeah, you'll have a great time if you attend that program. So we're also excited to present our virtual summer classes. These summer classes explore art and animation from a historical and practical perspective for a variety of age ranges. These programs have already been put on sale, so visit our show notes for more information about each of these classes. To ensure that all of the students have the opportunity to take classes at the Walt Disney Family Museum, we are pleased to offer scholarships to qualifying families and students of all ages. So for more information about classes and how to apply for a scholarship, visit our website.
And those are going to be a whole lot of fun. But if you're interested in learning more about animation but might not have the time to dedicate to a summer class, we also have some exciting virtual studio series workshops. Our studio series workshops are 90-minute sessions exploring animation principles and techniques. We have adult and youth sessions for each workshop. The youth session recommended for ages 7 to 17. In honor of Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary, this year we will be making multiple stops around the resort and delving into its history. Our first stop is themed around Epcot. Visit our show notes for more information on each of these workshops, and visit our website to see what classes and workshops are available.
Yeah, and I also want to stress, make sure you're signed up for our e-newsletter. You can do that by visiting waltdisney.org. It'll be at the bottom of the webpage. Signing up for our e-news is a great way to be the first to know about all of these workshops and programs. These are in high demand. They're virtual workshops and classes. So if you really are interested, these programs do come out on a regular basis. So, make sure you're signed up so you never miss a thing.
We are happy to announce that the Walt Disney Family Museum plans to reopen to the public with a special preview of our new special exhibition, The Walt Disney Studios and World War II, on Friday, March 19th, 2021. The exhibition will be open to members only on Thursday, March 18th, 2021, and to the general public on the following day. In addition to the Diane Disney Miller Exhibition Hall, the museum store will also be open.
So this is all really exciting to have our special exhibition open, and you can get your tickets for the first 2 weeks of the exhibition preview. Those are available now. The remaining areas of the museum, including the main galleries of the life of Walt Disney, will open later in April.
And don't be too confused either, because in just a little bit, we're going to have our executive director on to give a little bit more insight into why the museum is opening in this way. Off of that, please note that during this period, before the main museum galleries can reopen, the main museum building will be inaccessible to the public, with the exception of the museum store. The awards lobby and museum cafe will remain temporarily closed, and restrooms will be available only in the Diane Disney Miller Exhibition Hall, which is where that special exhibition, the Walt Disney Studios and World War II, is at.
Yeah, and before you visit, we ask that all visitors take a self-screening questionnaire before visiting the museum. And, please stay home if you're experiencing any symptoms. If you did purchase tickets and need to reschedule your visit, email tickets at wdfmuseum.org. Members can email membership@wdfmuseum.org for similar inquiries. Although no refunds are available, our team is always happy to reschedule your visit.
Yes, and that'll be really important coming up as we announce our main museum reopening date, so we're really excited for that. Up next on the podcast is our interview with our Executive Director, Kirsten Komoroske. We would now like to welcome Executive Director of the Walt Disney Family Museum, Kirsten Komoroske, to the podcast. Thank you for being with us today, Kirsten.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, let's get right to it. We're very excited to open up our new special exhibition, The Walt Disney Studios and World War II, to the public on March 19th. A question many might be asking is, why does it make sense to open the exhibition before the main museum?
So in order to hire and thoroughly train the adequate number of staff that we need to open the main museum, we just need a bit more time. And we want to be very thoughtful about that. But our special exhibition is already installed, and we want the public to be able to enjoy that. And we do have the proper number of staff to safely open that special exhibition. And so we wanted people to be able to view that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I know. I'm really excited to experience this new exhibition. And what is kind of a favorite artifact or story featured in the exhibition that you're excited for guests to experience for the first time coming back?
There's a lot in this exhibition and a lot of inspiring work that is on view. But probably my favorite is the story of Fifinella and the women Air Force service pilots, the WASPs. These were courageous women who served in the war effort and either were pilots or learned to be pilots in service of the country. And we have an advisory committee member whose mother was a WASP, and she generously loaned us some photographs and a patch, and that's on display in this exhibition. But it's a very inspiring story of the courage that these women showed during the war effort.
Yeah, I just love that they champion this Fifinella character that really symbolized kind of women's independence in the workforce and in the Army. So I think it's such an important story to tell, and especially during this time where in March we're celebrating Women's History Month. So very important topic.
Yes, we will definitely have to keep an eye out for that. And what a great connection to the content there. Following CDC and local guidelines, every precaution is being taken to ensure the museum experience is as safe as possible. What can guests expect to experience when we reopen that may be different from past visits?
So we're following all of the guidelines and going above and beyond in some cases, but guests will be required to wear masks There's social distancing. We have hand sanitizer stations. The museum is a touchless environment now, and we have disposable headphones and stencils for people. We are asking that people purchase their ticket in advance, or if they're a member, reserve their free ticket. And we'll have timed ticket entrance. And we have plexiglass installed and various other measures that we've taken so that guests can have a safe but enjoyable experience at the museum.
Yeah, it really sounds like we've done everything that we can, and we're so excited to have guests back into the museum once the time is right. And during this museum's closure, we've been able to kind of fast track advancements in virtual programming, exhibitions, classes, workshops, and the launch of our WDFM mobile app. How do you see the museums building on this momentum and continuing to innovate in the virtual sphere going forward?
Yeah, so we were lucky because we had somewhat of a leg up when we had to close down because we had been doing distance learning with a school back east, and we had also launched virtual field trips. But this closure has allowed us to greatly expand our offerings. Last year, between April and the end of the year, we reached almost 500,000 people through our virtual programming. So that's classes, programs, our very popular happily ever after hours programming, um, team building events. We have a number of offerings, and this is really important to us because we want to reach as many people as we can, people who may never have the opportunity to come to the museum. So this will remain part of our mission going forward to continue this virtual programming and offer the content to people all over the globe.
It really sounds like all of this virtual programming was a real opportunity for the museum to be able to reach folks who otherwise might not be able to come to the museum. But of course, with the opportunity were challenges as well. This past year was challenging, to say the least, for museums and institutions around the world. Looking back, what did you learn from leading the museum through such an unprecedented and uncertain time?
Yeah, it was certainly a time of a lot of learning, but I think the most important thing, the principle that I, you know, believe in, but became even more apparent during the closure, is to lead with love. This has been a difficult time for people, and people have responded in a variety of different ways. And I think to remember to exercise empathy and compassion and try to lead by showing that those things matter has been important. And I've been just so impressed with the staff and how creative and compassionate they've been during this time. It's been really remarkable, and as I always say, I'm humbled to be a part of this team.
Yeah, this year has been so challenging. And I know, speaking for myself and for Chris, we've been challenged, but been supported during this time by leadership at the Walt Disney Family Museum. And it's definitely been a big learning curve, but all that we've accomplished is so incredible. And glad that we could, do something to help the public go through this really difficult time around the world.
With how this past year has gone, I really liked the quote that you said a moment ago that we're leading with love, and that has really resonated with how our whole team has come together to face the challenges of bringing more virtual programming on. It's been inspiring to see the whole team come together. As you said, we are a small team, but with all that we have taken on this past year, we've all been able to lean on each other a little bit more, to help each other out, pick up some more tasks to help each other get that task over the finish line. And we can definitely see the end in sight now for our closure.
When the museum does open to the public in April, what is a favorite artifact or story featured in the museum that guests should make sure to see?
This is like choosing your favorite child. There's so much in it, and I think our founder and Walt's daughter Diane Disney Miller did a spectacular job. But one thing that I really find brilliant is her use of her father's voice to tell his own story. And that's an unbelievable asset that we have at the museum. And to hear his voice and talk about his experiences, his challenges, it's a really unique element of the museum. And I often think that if you were able to walk through the Uffizi galleries in Florence and hear Michelangelo talking about his creative process, how impactful it would be. And so it's a really fantastic and special part of the museum.
I completely agree. I feel like you don't typically think of the subject of your museum being themselves an artifact, but the fact that Walt was such a great storyteller, was known around the world for telling great stories, the fact that throughout his lifetime he was able to tell the story of his life, and we could use so much of that in bringing his stories to future generations is just really inspiring. Kirsten, we'd like to thank you so much for spending time with us today, for leading with love, and we wish you the best of luck with reopening the museum.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank both of you, too, for all of your hard work and your creativity. You've been fantastic. So thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to WDFM, the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Email us questions or comments at podcast@wdfmuseum.org.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WDF Museum for all the latest updates. Signing off for now.
Keep moving forward.